In this video, we're going to be learning a little bit more about HTML. So if you have not watched video 6, please go ahead and watch that first so you can get caught up, and then move along to this video, video 7. So go ahead and open your HTML document that you'll have from video 6. Open that up in probably Sublime Text or Coda or something, and go ahead and erase anything that was in the body, the images and paragraphs and headings that we had. Just go ahead and get rid of them for now. And then you'll also open up your browser, and then go ahead and open up that file in the browser so we can see it change as we go. So the first thing that I want to talk about is containers, and containers are a way of dividing up your content in order to give that content properties that are different from the rest of the page. So they're sort of puzzle pieces sort of that fit together to make a website. So why would you want to do this? Well, let's go ahead and kind of explore them to find out. So the way I would create a container is by the div tag, and then, as you know, I like to go ahead and close my tags. So I'm going to close my tags so I don't forget, and closing your container tags is ridiculously important, so do not forget to do that. Now, you may have seen different containers, for example, articles or sections. We are just going to start with this basic container, and then once you learn kind of how containers work, then we can move on to more specific containers like articles and sections. But we'll first start with, just this. So in this container, I'm going to put something. So let's go ahead and put, a heading that is maybe the title for my site. So the Alligator Chronicle. I don't know, just put that in there. And then maybe I'll put a little subhead, news about alligators. Okay, I'll save it, and it'll appear as it did before, as it normally appears. Nothing special about that. But let's go ahead and put some other content outside of this container. So I'm going to put a paragraph. And, I have this lorem ipsum generator, which I used in the last video, and you're not going to have this on your browser. I forgot to mention that, unless you've installed this Chrome extension. So you can look up lorem ipsum if you think that it would be useful to use. And so lorem ipsum is just dummy text that designers or developers will use so that you can see what the site looks like with content, even if you don't have content. So I'm going to go ahead and, this isn't anything special. You could just copy like some content from a news site or something. It doesn't matter, but lorem ipsum is pretty popular. So if I go ahead and generate it, this is not the only site that you can get it from, but I'm just going to take this content here and copy it so that I just have a paragraph without having to type a bunch of nonsense. As a side note, lorem ipsum can be fun. There's different types of lorem ipsum. Like, for example, there's like cupcake ipsum, and so if you want more fun lorem ipsum, then you can use that. There's lots of different kinds. If you look up, unique types of lorem ipsum, you will find quite a bit. So I can replace my boring lorem ipsum with some cupcake lorem ipsum, and it's all about delicious desserts. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in there, and then save it, and then when I refresh, still normal, everything looks normal. But what I'm going to do now is give this container some style. So normally when we add style, we're actually going to be doing that in an external style sheet using CSS. But we haven't learned CSS yet. We haven't even learned style. So I'm just going to start off by showing you inline style. The way you do that is you put style equals, and then in here you're going to put the properties and values of the different style elements that you want. So I know that you don't know any yet, but I would encourage you to look some up and kind of play around. But first, I'll go ahead and set the background color. So background color is a property, and then I can set that as blue. That is an accepted value. The background is blue only behind the elements included in this container. So once I ended the container, you have no more blue background. Now, if I were to put this style, I'm just going to copy it here and put it on the whole body, then you know, it appears as the whole background. But maybe I only want kind of a header section to appear blue, so that is why I would put a container around it. Then I can put the background behind just what I want it to be on. So let's go ahead and try something else. So I can put color. So color refers to the font color, and I'm just going to go ahead and make that white. Okay, and then you see that the font here has turned white, but the rest of the font here, still black. So let's go ahead and put this paragraph into its own container. And give some properties to that. So again, we put style, and we're doing inline style, and that's because it is inline in the HTML document. It is not in an external document, which would be a CSS style sheet. And so I'll put, let's see, font size as, let's go with 16 pixels, because I think it's smaller than that now. And again, I know that you don't yet know these properties, but you know, now you know background color, you know font size. So we're going to learn a lot more. And again, I would encourage you to look more up and kind of try to play with that and figure out how to use it. So when I refresh the page, okay, that must actually be 16 pixels. So let's make it a little bit bigger. How about 24? Yes, and it got bigger. So, okay, let's try something else here. So let's go ahead and put in that image from the previous video. You'll remember I had my images folder, and then I had a dog file in my images folder. So, and if you don't remember that, I'll show you here. I have my website folder, this HTML file that I'm currently working on. So the browser knows that it's already in this file. So then it just goes to this images folder, which is right here. And I have this dog.jpg file in there. So I went ahead and added it. And there's my dog. Okay, let's say I wanted to apply style to kind of this section here. Maybe this was my article or something. So let's go ahead and give this a background color of gray. Okay, so this image actually has a white background, which is why it's not gray, but you can see that where the image is and then where the text is now has a gray background. So we've got this section up here that has, or this container up here that has a blue background, then we have this container here that has a gray background. And so, you know, we've kind of divided it into parts that we can apply different styles to. Now you can apply styles not just to containers, although if you apply a style to a container, that style will be applied to, you know, everything in that container. But let's just say I wanted my image to have a border. Put a style in there, and I could put border. Maybe I wanted a 3-pixel border that was black and solid. Now you have other options, other colors, obviously, other widths, but also it could be dashed or dotted, but we're just going to do a solid one. And when we refresh it, it has a border. Another property that you might apply to it would be a float. And a float makes the image go to one side or the other. So for example, let's go ahead and float it left. And what this does is, even though you'll see that this picture is already to the left, it will allow things to fill in because it will no longer take up this whole big, huge space. It'll go to the left side and allow anything else following it to go in that space. So if we refresh, now the text comes in because the image is just floated. And now I could float it right too, and then the text would fill in around it with the image to the right. And that is how that works. Now let's say that I wanted to apply style to just like this section of the paragraph. You can do that too. So you don't have to divide up this paragraph and put it in containers or put it in multiple paragraphs because that would split it up. Let's say that you wanted this to remain one paragraph. You could put a span instead of a div. You could put a span around what you wanted to have a different property. And then you could apply different properties to that. Now, I'm going to show you kind of the difference between a div and a span. So a div is block level and a span is inline. And just to show you first how the div works, when we refresh, this goes on an entirely different line, right? So when we change this to a span, and this to a span, and then let's go ahead and apply some style to it. So let's just change the font color to white. And now it goes back to being one whole paragraph, but just these words are in white. So a span is something that is really convenient as well. I'm going to go ahead and add another section here, another container. And maybe this would be, the bottom of your page, like a footer area. And this page was produced by Kristen. And then I can go ahead and apply a background to that too. So style, background, color is red, and then maybe the font, the color of the font, which is color, is white. And then when I save that, refresh, I've got white text and a red background. And you'll notice that there is space between my containers, and that's because the browser is just doing that automatically. And that is something that you can change to. It's just, another style that you have to include. But that is why that's happening. It's nothing that you're doing or not doing that's making it happen. So this is just a basic page to show you what happens when you use containers and apply style to them.